Level 1, the Deckhands Kid. You're 15 years old, and your uncle owns a 32-foot lobster boat with a diesel engine that coughs black smoke every time it starts cold. He needs cheap labor for the summer, and you need money for anything that isn't your parents' wallet. He pays you $40 a day, cash, and doesn't apologize for it. Your job is bait. You cut herring into chunks that smell like they've been dead for a week, because they have been, and you stuff the bags and hang them in the traps. Your hands smell like fish for 3 days straight, no matter how much soap you use. You wear gloves the first week. The gloves tear. You stop wearing gloves. Your palms crack and bleed at the knuckles, and you learn to keep working anyway, because the boat doesn't stop for a scraped hand. The first time real weather hits, you throw up over the side twice before noon. Your uncle doesn't laugh at you. He hands you a rag and tells you, eat crackers, not eggs, before you come out next time. You learn the names of things by getting them wrong. You call a warp line a rope once, and he corrects you without looking up. You learn that the ocean doesn't care what you meant to do, only what you did. 6 weeks in, you can bait a trap in 9 seconds without thinking about the smell anymore. Your uncle notices. He doesn't say much, but he starts letting you run the hauler, the hydraulic winch that pulls the trap line up from the bottom. It's the first piece of real machinery he's trusted you with. You pull up your first trap alone, and there are 4 keeper lobsters inside, clacking their claws against the wire. You band them with shaking hands because you're afraid of losing a finger, which is a fear every new deckhand carries, and nobody tells you about until you've already felt it. This is how it starts for almost every commercial fisherman who's still doing it 20 years later. Not with a plan, with a summer job that smelled bad and paid worse, and something underneath that made you want to come back the next morning anyway. Level 2, the licensed deckhand. You're 18 now, and you've got your own set of oilskins instead of borrowed ones 2 sizes too big. You've worked 3 seasons on your uncle's boat and 1 winter on a bigger dragger out of the same harbor, a 65-foot steel-hulled boat that fishes ground fish instead of lobster. The dragger is a different animal. Instead of hauling 1 trap at a time, you're working a net that comes up with 2,000 pounds of fish, and you have to sort it on deck before it goes bad. Cod, haddock, skate, dogfish, whatever the net didn't let through. You learn to sort fast, because the faster you sort, the faster the fish goes on ice, and the faster it goes on ice, the more money it's worth at the dock. You get your first real cut from a dogfish spine, a nasty little poison barb near the tail that every deckhand learns to respect the hard way. It swells and throbs for 2 days. Nobody on the boat treats it like a big deal, so you don't either. You start learning navigation properly now, not just following orders. You learn to read the chart plotter, to understand depth contours, to know why the captain picks one patch of bottom over another that looks identical to you. He explains it once, sometimes twice if you're lucky. You start standing watch on the wheel during long steams out to the grounds, 4 hours at 2 a.m. with nothing but radar returns and the hum of the engine for company. The loneliness of it surprises you. So does how much you come to like it. You learn the hierarchy of a boat the way you'd learn the hierarchy of any tight, dangerous workplace. The captain's word is final, full stop, because on the water there isn't time for a vote when something goes wrong. You learn to take instruction without your ego getting in the way, because the guy correcting you has probably lost a friend to the mistake he's warning you about. Level 3, the man overboard drill that becomes real. 21 years old and you're 3 years into working boats when the thing every deckhand fears actually happens. Not to you, to the guy next to you. A wave catches the stern wrong during a haul, and the net swings and knocks him off balance and over the rail before anyone can grab him. The water is 48 degrees. You've done the drill a dozen times in training. Throw the ring, mark the GPS position, keep eyes locked on the person, don't look away for 1 second, because a head in rough water disappears fast. You do exactly what the drill taught you, except now your hands are shaking and your voice is too high when you're yelling his position to the wheelhouse. The captain brings the boat around in a turn that feels impossibly slow. 4 minutes pass. It feels like 40. You get a line to him. You and another deckhand haul him over the rail together, soaked through, blue around the lips, but alive. He shakes for an hour under 3 blankets in the wheelhouse before he can speak in full sentences. Nobody on that boat is the same after that day, including you. You understand for the first time that this job isn't dangerous in the abstract way people warn you about at parties. It's dangerous in a specific, physical way that has nothing to do with courage and everything to do with paying attention to details that feel boring until the moment they aren't. You start double-checking everything after that, not out of fear exactly, out of respect. The other guys notice the change in you. One of them tells you that's the day you actually became a fisherman, not the day you started. Level 4, the mate. 24 years old and the captain of the dragger starts giving you responsibilities that used to be his alone. You're the mate now, second in command, which mostly means you're the one who makes sure everything happens on schedule when he's asleep or dealing with the engine room. You learn to read weather forecasts the way a doctor reads an X-ray, not just what the numbers say, but what they mean for a boat your specific size in your specific fishing ground. You learn that a forecast calling for 15 knots can still put you in the wheelhouse white-knuckling the wheel if the swell period is wrong. You start making calls that used to be above your pay grade, whether to run for one more tow before the weather turns, whether a piece of gear is worth repairing at sea or worth steaming back for. You get one of these calls wrong. You push for one more set when you shouldn't have. The weather turns faster than forecast, and you spend 6 hours getting the boat back to harbor through conditions that scare you in a way you don't admit to anyone but yourself. The captain doesn't yell. He asks you what you'd do differently. You tell him, he nods, and doesn't bring it up again. But you carry that lesson for the rest of your career. You also start learning the business side without meaning to. Quota systems, days at sea limits, the paperwork that governs exactly how much of what species you're legally allowed to bring to the dock. The regulations feel like a foreign language stacked on top of a job you thought was just about hard work and good instincts. You realize it's both. Level 5, the boat of your own. 28 years old, and you buy your first boat, a used 42-foot combination boat that can fish lobster in summer and switch gear for groundfish in the fall. It cost you $180,000, most of it borrowed, and the loan payment sits in your stomach every single month, whether the fishing is good or not. The engine needs work in your first season that you didn't budget for, an $11,000 repair on a transmission that failed during a tow, 3 miles offshore in fog thick enough that you couldn't see your own bow rail. You limp back on one engine, cursing the boat, cursing yourself for buying it. You learn that owning a boat means every mechanical failure is now your financial problem and your safety problem at once. You hire your first deckhand, a 17-year-old who reminds you exactly of yourself, nervous, seasick the first week, desperate to prove he belongs. You teach him the way you were taught, show him once, expect him to remember. Correct him without humiliating him, because you remember what it felt like to be corrected by someone who made you feel small versus someone who made you feel like you could actually get better. Your first full season as an owner-operator nets you less profit than you made as a mate the year before, once you account for fuel, bait, insurance, and the loan. Your wife asks if it was worth it. You don't have a clean answer yet. You will, eventually, but not this year. Level 6, the captain with a name on the dock. 33 years old, and you've paid off enough of the boat that the loan payment doesn't sit in your stomach anymore. You've built a reputation at the co-op for bringing in clean catch, properly sorted, properly iced, which matters more to buyers than people outside the industry ever realize. Boats with sloppy handling get docked on price. Yours doesn't. You've got 2 deckhands now instead of 1, and you've started specializing, targeting groundfish stocks that most boats in your harbor don't bother chasing because they require gear modifications and local knowledge that took you years to build. You know a stretch of bottom 14 miles out that consistently produces when other spots go cold. Knowledge you've never written down anywhere and never will, because that spot is worth more to you than most of what you own. You start getting calls from other captains asking for advice on gear rigging, on where the fish are running, on whether a piece of secondhand equipment is worth buying. You give real answers because you remember every captain who gave you a real answer instead of a guarded one when you were starting out. The community runs on a strange mix of fierce competition and quiet generosity, and you finally understand both halves of it. You also start losing time you didn't expect to lose, board meetings for the co-op, testimony at a regulatory hearing about quota changes that could cut your allowable patch by 20% if they pass. You realize the fish aren't the hardest part of this job anymore. the politics are. Level 7. The fleet owner. 39 years old, and you buy a second boat, a bigger one, 58 feet, and hire a captain to run it while you split your time between both decks and the dock office you never thought you'd need. You're not just fishing anymore, you're running a small operation. Payroll for 5 deckhands and 1 hired captain, maintenance schedules for 2 engines instead of 1, insurance premiums that make you wince every renewal. You learn to read a balance sheet the way you once learned to read a chart plotter, out of necessity, one mistake at a time. A hydraulic line bursts on the second boat during a haul and nearly takes a deckhand's arm off. He's fine, shaken, but fine, and you spend that night rewriting your safety checklist from top to bottom, adding steps that feel excessive to everyone except you, because you were the one who had to call his mother and tell her he was okay before she'd even heard he was hurt. You start mentoring young captains the way you were mentored, teaching 2 of them the groundfish spot you kept secret for a decade, because you've realized that knowledge dies with you if you never pass it on, and that scares you more than losing a competitive edge. The industry is changing around you. Quotas tightening, fuel costs climbing, younger guys leaving the docks for jobs that don't require getting up at 3 a.m. in February. You wonder some nights if you're building something that will still exist in 20 years, or something that's already quietly ending. Level 8. The old man of the harbor. You're 52 years old, and you've spent 37 years on the water since the summer you first cut bait for $40 a day. Your hands are permanently swollen at the knuckles from decades of cold and rope burn. Your hearing is going in one ear from years next to a diesel engine that never got quieter, no matter how much you insulated the wheelhouse. You've buried 2 friends the ocean took, and you've pulled 1 man back from it who lived because you didn't look away for a second. Your fleet is 3 boats now, run mostly by captains you trained yourself, men who call you for advice the way you once called your uncle, though you notice they call less often now because they don't need to as much, which is its own kind of pride. You still go out yourself sometimes, not because the business needs you on deck, but because a morning on the water still feels like the only place your mind goes completely quiet. Your son works summers on the smallest boat the same way you did, cutting bait, learning the smell, cracking his knuckles on cold rope, complaining about it exactly the way you did at his age. You watch him come back from his first bad weather day looking pale and proud at the same time, and you recognize the look because you wore it once yourself. You don't tell him it gets easier. It doesn't, not really. You just get better at carrying it. And somewhere right now on a dock in a harbor that looks a lot like the one you started in, there's a 15-year-old kid climbing onto a boat that smells like diesel and old bait, about to get seasick for the first time, about to cut his hands raw on rope he doesn't know the name of yet. He has no idea what he's signing up for. The cold, the loss, the debt, the mornings that never get easier. He also has no idea what he'll build if he keeps showing up. Most don't make it past the first hard season. A few do. And the ocean, patient as it's always been, waits to see which one he turns out to be.